Great. Well, welcome back, everyone. My name is Remy from Logix. Delighted to have everyone back for another session of the virtual training series on the Makeblock Steam on Board online training with mBlock 5. Believe it or not, we're in week 6 of 8. So hopefully, as we've gone through this series, you've really been able to delve deeper into learning the fundamentals of coding with this virtual platform. To get us started, please do make sure you take on the regular steps of opening mBlock 5 software, of opening the lesson material for today, continuing the discussion on the mBlock 5 discussion group on the Logix educator community, and joining the mBlock global community. And all of that can be found on logixacademy.com/SteamOnBoard. Again, this is brought to you as part of the virtual training series, which you can view online at www.logixacademy.com/virtual training. And I encourage you all to take a moment when you have to check out the wonderful topics that we have available there for all free training. Thanks to our many partners for supporting this initiative, providing it for free for educators in Canada. And as of course, feel free to continue the conversation for this discussion or any other discussion on the community at www.logixacademy.com/community. So that's where you can access the discussion group here, as well as for other discussion groups in STEM, robotics, and coding. And today I'm delighted to announce a new initiative by Logix Academy in partnership with Microsoft and Minecraft. We have launched the Canadian Storytelling in Minecraft initiative and challenge. You can find information about that online at logixacademy.com/Canadian Storytelling. But I'm super delighted to be sharing this opportunity with all of you, as it's a free challenge for individual students to participate with at home, groups of students or teachers to share with their students and connect with their class, to give students voice and choice to tell a story of a Canadian, classic Canadian story from their local community, build it in Minecraft, and submit it online through Flipgrid. This is completely free and allows students to really be able to share different stories they might have about Canada, and then have an awesome chance at winning a prize or 3 prizes of $30,000 of tech for their school. So check it out online and be sure to encourage your students to participate in it. Again, the virtual training series is all available online with a variety of topics, from fundamentals in robotics and coding to Teams to Flipgrid to coding with Minecraft, both in English and in French, and you can check that all out on our website. The Canadian Storytelling Challenge that I was telling you about, you can find all the information there, getting started videos, guides, all the wonderful prizes of tech for your school for free that students can participate in, and resources and office hours that students and teachers can participate in, all online, available on our website. And then, of course, for today, if you land on the Steam on Board website, here's where you can access all the resources. And for today, for English, we're doing lesson 6 at this moment. As you probably know, we're doing a parallel French course running at the same time. But today we're doing lesson 6, where you can access the material. Again, you can download the individual material or the zip file of everything. And the example files are the mBlock 5 files that we'll be using today. So I know that's a lot of information, but I hope you join along and be sure to participate in everything that we're trying to provide as resources and support for educators during this time period. And again, all the links are put into the chat for you to connect and collaborate, and feel free to ask any questions, so don't hesitate to. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mina to lead us on lesson 6 of the mBlock Steam on Board online training with mBlock 5.
All right, thanks so much, Rami, for sharing us some new information and this new challenge in Minecraft storytelling. So really eager to see what's going to be shared through Flipgrid during these days. So in preparation for lesson 6, hopefully you had a chance to download the files, and also some of you have shared lesson 5, which is Panda's run on the Makeblock community. So that's great to hear that you're doing that, and you're still continuing to share over the community and being involved in the discussions. So once you have the files ready, we'll get started. As usual, I'm going to start sharing my screen. I hope you'll be able to see that in just a minute. But we're going to start with the lesson plan that we all have there. It's lesson 6, penalty kick. And we're going to go through the lesson plan at the beginning, show you the, oops, sorry about that. Just get that up and running here. Show you the CSTA and the ISTE, as well as the provincial standards. And then we'll get right into the lesson. So again, the lesson plan is the same kind of style, the same format as you've seen in the past. We're still in the beginner session, but I would say that we're getting a little bit, we're delving a little bit deeper, and the concepts are getting a little bit harder, especially when you have, X, Y coordinates. So you're having to teach this maybe in grades 5 or 6, or even as young as 4. So it is getting a little bit harder, but it's still within the beginner stage. The objectives of today's session is that you're going to be creating a program in mBlock that synchronizes costume changes and motion for multiple sprites. So last week we got Panda to run, and we had 2 more sprites cheering him on. Today we're going to have Panda watch a soccer player score the ball into the net, and that's part of like the multiple sprites, as well as the synchronization of costume changes. We're also going to distinguish between go to block, go to XY block, as well as the glide block, and we're going to see that main difference there. We're going to program the sprite to show and hide. So we talked about that a little bit, but now we're actually going to use it. I'm going to show you another way to duplicate blocks in programming, and then also changing a sprite's costume to a specific costume, not just one that is in order. Again, the overview is very similar. Your learners or your students will be programming Panda to learn how to kick a soccer ball into a goal from his friend Jordan. Jordan's the soccer player. And they will also learn how to control more precise movements by programming sprites to glide to specified XY coordinates on the mBlock stage. And they will also explore how to combine motion and costumes and synchronize them together. And finally, they'll see how to show and hide sprites in a program. So you have the pre-lesson checklist. You also have the national standards, CSTA and ISTE, and then kind of the same provincial standards there from the XY coordinates and the geometry from the previous lesson. So that hasn't changed much on there. And then we get into the warm-up part of the session, or part of the lesson, where we kind of review and go over what we did last week. So I'm going to go over to the slides, and just a reminder, these slides can be used. You can share them with your learners, through Google Classroom, or if you're teaching your kids at home, you can share those slides with them because it doesn't have the answers as the lesson plan does. So feel free to share these PowerPoints with all your learners, whether at home or at school. So we have lesson 6, penalty kick, and we'll see how we're going to build that together. So part of the review includes some of the blocks that we have already used. And just a reminder, this is one of the codes that we did last week, where when the flag is clicked, Panda started on the left side of the screen or the left side of the stage at a particular XY coordinate. And then in a forever loop, he took one step and switched the costume to the next costume and then kept going, taking steps until he went to the end of the screen or end of the stage. So I hope that brings back your memory for that. We also included another sprite called Boy 11, where forever he cheered Panda, and in cheering he said cheer for 0.5 seconds, and between one cheer and another he was saying he waited before he said the next cheer. And then finally we also added Boy 15, which not only cheered but also switched to the next costume, and we saw how we can do that by using this next costume tab or this next costume block. So today, this is a really cool program. There's a lot of coordination and synchronization being involved. So I'm really eager to get started here. You can see that we're going to get Jordan, which is our soccer player, to kick a ball into the net, and we're also going to get her to kick the ball out of the net, and some other challenges near the end of today's session. And kind of some context to go with what Panda is doing there, you can find that in the lesson plan. So I'll just read a snippet of what this whole story is all about. So after Panda's first running competition, where he ran in the race, Panda was interested in learning more about other sports. Panda visits a soccer field and sees Jordan, a soccer player practicing scoring goals. Panda is excited to be able to watch Jordan and learn how to kick a soccer ball into the net too. So it kind of gives your learners a bit of context about what they're going to experience. And after that, we're going to get into the hands-on portion where we're going to do a couple of things. And I mentioned where the ball is going to be kicked into the goal versus the ball is kicked out of the goal. So those are the two main parts that we're going to be focusing on today. So in the hands-on portion, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our sprites. Now, this lesson has 4 main problems, or you have the one big problem of scoring a goal, but we're going to break it down into 4 different sub-problems, and this is called decomposing a problem, or breaking down into different sub-problems. And one of the main one of the problems that we're going to do is taking a particular open or new file and adding the particular or specific sprites that we need to be using today, and also changing the sizes. We saw this a little bit, but now we're actually going to change the size today. So I'm going to show you the steps, but we're also going to do this in mBlock 5. So if you have a new file open, please open that on your end so that we can create this this new program together. So again, the mBlock 5 opens up in the devices tab, and all we need to do is just switch over to sprites. So please go ahead and do that, because this is where we're going to be adding our sprites. So in the chat, I just want to ask this question as we get our sprites added. In this soccer field, or in this stage that what are some of the sprites or backgrounds that we need to add? So take a minute and type in the chat, what are some things for us to prepare the stage that we need to add to get to this penalty kick lesson that we need to do today. So take a minute and type that in before we add our sprites. So keep in mind that once you've shared a little bit of the context of what's happening in the story, you're going to be asking your learners or requesting from them to share with you what should be on the stage. So I see a lot of chat coming in. So a background, so a ball, a field, and the net. So the field and the net come together in the background. Jordan is really important. We already have Panda on there. So Jordan, a ball, and the background for football. So and also and you guys are all right. It's all of them. But we're going to also talk about, and you can also talk to your learners about this in different areas in the world. Soccer is used primarily in North America versus football. The word football is used in Europe. So you can talk about the social differences there and share that there's multiple words that have the same meaning for this particular sport. So I'm going to be calling it soccer, but just keep in mind that there's other areas around the world that call it football, especially in when we add this background, you will see that it's actually called football field 1. So this is something that you can talk to your learners about. So that's the first thing I'm going to add, and you can go ahead and add those 3 things. So background and Jordan and a soccer ball. So my background, I'm going to go to costumes because that's where we can find the library of costumes available to us. And in the costumes, you're going to type in football field 1. Football field 1. So, and again, just go click on the plus button there to access the search. It's just taking a minute to load, but you're searching for football field 1 background. And once you have that, you just click and add it to your background. Hopefully this time I have my background here. There it is. So football field 1, click on OK, and it should change from a white background to your football field. The next thing we're going to add, if we go back to sprites, is Jordan. So it's a soccer player called Jordan, Jordyn, and another sprite called soccer ball. So you can find those in the library there. Here is Jordan, and I'm going to search for soccer ball in just a second. And what you're going to be noticing is your sprites, as they are added, they're put onto the stage, but that's not necessarily where we want them to be. So we're going to change their position. We're also going to change their size because we want to be able to have it proportional to an actual soccer game or this penalty kick that we're going to put together. So I know it kind of clumps together, and I know that the ball is bigger or as big as Panda. It's okay. We're going to change the size. We're going to change where it's supposed to be. So again, I've added my 3 options there, and they kind of look relatively big. But on the slides and on the lesson plan, there's 7 steps for this particular stage or this particular part of the lesson. So we're going to do changing the size and also going to a particular section on the screen using XY coordinates. So the first thing is Panda. If we go to Panda, we're going to change his size to 50%. So again, you can see that the size is a default 100. We're going to type in 50 and click enter, and you'll see that Panda has now changed to 50% of his size. The next sprite that we're going to change is Jordan. Jordan is going to be at 80%. So not much of a change, but still needs to be a little bit smaller. And then finally, the soccer ball believe it or not, is the same size as Panda. So it's going to be at 50%. So we've changed those particular sprites and their sizes. Now let's move the two sprites. Now there's three sprites. We have Jordan, Panda, and the ball. Pandas, you can move it to the bottom left-hand corner there because he's going to sit and watch Jordan kick the ball. But the two sprites that we need to change to a particular XY coordinates are Jordan and the ball. So let's work on the ball first. We're going to click on the sprite and the ball sprite, and we're going to use the event that we've always used in the past. It's the when flag is clicked. So go to events and drag out a when flag is clicked event block into your workspace. And then once it's there, you can just let it go. Now, if you recall, we used the block called go to XY to have Panda move in lesson 5 to the left-hand side of the screen in a particular XY coordinate. Now we're going to use the same for this, for the ball. This ball is itself in lesson 6, and we're going to take out this go to XY coordinate from the motion menu on the left, and we're going to connect it to the when flag is clicked. Now in the lesson plan and in the slides, it does give you the coordinates, and these coordinates you can type that in instead of dragging the ball and figuring out where the coordinates are. It's -11 for X and Y is -116. And when you do click on the enter, you can see that the ball goes to where it should be, which is -11X, Y is -116. And then similarly, we're going to do the same thing for Jordan, but we can use the exact same block of code. I know it's only 2 blocks, but we can duplicate this code not within itself, but within other sprites. So this is part of the lesson plan where you get to duplicate code from one sprite to another. So if you had that question in the past, here is the answer today. So all we need to do is literally click the block stack that we want to copy over and move over, and you're going to cross over to the sprites area, but you're going to go over to the Jordan sprite and you will see it wiggle a little bit, and that indicates to you that this is where the code is going to be copied into. So as soon as I let go, okay, so I'm still in soccer ball. You can still see my original code, but now if we go into Jordan, you should see that code, the exact same code that was in soccer ball, now in Jordan. And this is a really neat way to copy code from one sprite to another, saves you time, saves your learners time in coding and programming. So the other go-to block for Jordan is going to be -63. So let's type that in, -63, oops, and -106. I was close with that. 106. Okay, so you can see that, and when you click on the flag, you'll see that that's where the ball and that's where Jordan start at. So hopefully my Jordan gets started not inside the goal, so that's not where we want her to be. I'm sure she'll go to that particular area in just a minute. Yeah, there it is. All right, so now we have solved one problem, okay, which is actually 2 problems: getting the stage ready and changing the size and changing the area of where the sprites are going to be. Now, the second problem is getting the costumes to switch. So going back to the slides here in just a second, we're going to switch the costumes to a particular costume. So not in order from, where not in sequence of the costumes that are in. So you can see here, there's a new block also found in looks. It's called switch costume 2. Now we used next costume in lesson 5. Today we're going to use switch costume 2, and you can actually click on the drop down menu to select the particular costume you wanted to go in. Now in mBlock 5, in the interface for costumes, you will see that Jordan has 4 different costumes: Jordan A, Jordan B, C, and D. And you can also call them 1, 2, 3, 4. So whatever way you want to call them. But these are the costumes that you will notice in the interface. Now, we're going to now add to our code for Jordan to switch costumes in order to indicate or show that she's actually kicking the ball. So going back to mBlock 5, we're in Jordan, and in the looks menu, we're going to use the block called switch costume 2. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so everyone can see. And we're going to take out this particular block. And before I start using this, I'm going to go into the costumes interface. You just click on costumes for Jordan's sprite there. And I want you to take a second to scroll through the sprites, and in the chat, indicate to me what order do we need the costumes to go in. What is the order to kind of show Jordan kicking the ball as you would normally kick the ball? So take a second. You can use all 4 of these sprites or these costumes, and take a second and type in what those answers are going to be. So see some chats coming in, so this is good. So there's going to be 4, just to give you an example, there's going to be 4 costumes that you're going to go in from top to bottom that you're going to put into your code. Okay, so Kara, you got it. I think it's it's DBAD. You were close. DBAD. You can also use C, kind of indicate that she's scored a goal for C. But this is DBAD would also work, or 4214. And you remember, you can use the same costume again. You can always switch back to the original costume just to show that she's kind of kicked the ball, and that's her, her end position. So you can do DBAD or DBAC, whichever works for you there. So now that we know the order, we're going to click on the exit costume interface button, and we're going to take out 4 costume blocks, and you can connect them together if you like. So here I have 3, and they all say Jordan A, but we will change that in just a second. And we're going to put them in our code. So we're going to connect that to when flag is clicked, go to XY. And just as you said, we're going to start with Jordan D. Okay, so you can change that in the drop-down menu. Then we're going to go to B, then A, which is the same, and then you can do C or D. So that's up to you there. And when you're ready, I want you to test that out and click on the when flag is clicked, or click on the flag itself to test out what happens. And we might run into a problem here. So let's see what happens. So I clicked on the flag, and we should see something happen, but also we run into another problem that we encounter. And even if you change the last switch costume block to C, you will see that problem come in to play. So who can tell me where, or type in the chat, what is the problem that we are encountering? What's happening with the costume, and what do we need it to do instead? So Oliver says it all happens at once. You're right. It is switching costume really fast. So it is happening all at once. And the timing is the problem. Exactly. So you've got it. This is awesome. You're figuring out the problem, and then what the solution is, and this is what you're going to model with your learners there. Even though this may be new to you, you can just share these problems with your learners, and I'm pretty sure they will come up with the solution. So again, we need to add an action or a wait time to slow down the difference of switching costumes from beginning to end. And we're going to use a wait block, and we're going to place those blocks in between each of the costume switch blocks there. So take a second and do that as well, because it needs to switch from one costume to another, but it does it so fast. And we're going to change these costumes to these wait seconds to 0.5 each. So take a second and do that. And now that you've done that, run your code and let's see what happens to Jordan. Hopefully she kicks the ball or indicates that she's kicking the ball. I'm going to bring back to D here. There. So it does work. And thank you for sharing the solution to adding a wait block. And we're going to see how we can use that wait block to solve another problem. So what is the next problem that we're encountering? This is now the fourth problem that we are encountering together, that Jordan is motioning to kick the ball, but what is not happening with the ball? So take a second and type that in the chat, and then we'll type in, we're going to go into the slides in just a second. So Cheryl, thank you. The ball needs to move. So we're trying to kick the ball, but as soon as Jordan kicks the ball, we need it to move. So that's a great solution that we need to address now. So going back to the slides, we've changed the costume, but now we don't need the ball to go to a particular area. We don't need it to go to X, Y. We need it to kind of glide or slide over into the goal. So this is moving a sprite using glide, and this is a new block, not very new, but it does have a main difference between a go-to position versus a glide position, and we'll see that in a second. But this main block allows, or the function of it is to move smoothly to a specified position on the stage in a specified time. So you can see the glide 1 second takes the ball, or you can tell the program to take the ball 1 second to that particular area. So let's add that into our ball code. And the particular coordinates that we're going to use is X is 50 and Y is 70. So we're going to go to the soccer ball. We're going to add our glide block from motion. Here we go. And we're not going to glide to a random position, but glide to a specific position. And you can place that right under your go to X block. So the go to X block tells the program, this is where I want the ball to be or to start at, but then I want it to glide to a particular area, which is 50X and 70Y, and test it out. Click on the flag, and we're going to see more problems coming along in the program here. So let's test it out again. what's happening. It's a little bit lagging on my end, but what's happening with the ball moving and Jordan kicking the ball. So we got the ball to move, but we're running into another problem. So type in the chat what is happening and what do we need to use to fix. And this is something that we already did for the costumes. So I hope this answer is, or I hope the solution makes a little bit more sense now. So yes, you do have to sync the ball with the kicking motion of Jordan. So if we go back to Jordan, I want to show you at which costume she starts to actually kick the ball at. So costume D is just the stance that she's in. Costume B is starting to move her leg back. And then costume A is where she actually motions to kick the ball. So in that code, you have 1 second that's elapsed. So 0.5 plus 0.5 gives you 1 second. So we actually need to delay the ball movement a little bit for 1 second between the go to and the glide block. And I'll talk about the glide 1 second in just a second here. But let's add a wait block in between the go to and the glide, because that wait 1 second indicates the seconds that Jordan is getting ready to kick the ball. And the difference of the glide 1 second here can actually show you how fast or slow the ball moves into the net. So you can tinker with these values. You can make the ball go really fast into the net. Maybe she has a strong leg, or really slow, just to kind of throw off the goalie from scoring. So you can play with this glide 1 second block. You can do it 0.5. You can do it 1. But the slower, the lower the number, the faster the ball will go, and the higher the number, the slower the ball will go into the net. So this is something that you can share with your learners as well. So now you can test it out. You will see that Jordan is motioning to kick the ball, and the ball goes into the net. So that's awesome job so far. We have a couple of more things to do here to help us kind of finish off today's session. And this is what we just did. So, and we kind of found out some of the smaller problems to share there, and that was the step number 4. The final thing is showing and hiding. Now, we wanted, if the ball is going to go off the screen or off the side of the goalpost, we wanted to show but also hide, or show at the beginning of the program but also hide when it gets off the screen. So these two blocks are found in the looks menu. Show obviously displays the hidden sprite, and hide hides the sprite. So we're going to add a show block and a hide block in the soccer ball, and we want it to hide as soon as it gets into the net. And the other program that we're going to do is getting the ball to go out of the screen there, or out of the goalpost to program. And we're going to use this using the left arrow key. We're going to add another type of event to, instead of flag, we're going to duplicate our code, but change it slightly to indicate that the ball is going off using a different event. So going back to our code here, we're going to add our show and hide blocks. Okay, so they are somewhere lower in the screen there in the menu. So we're going to show at the beginning and hide at the end. We always need a show and hide. If you use show, make sure you use a hide in your program. And here they had the ball go for 1.5 seconds. I'll just keep it at 1 and we'll duplicate it and do the next one. So we'll duplicate our code. Again, you're going to right click because we are duplicating it within that particular sprite. Let me get that duplicated here. There we go. And we're going to change the position that the sprite goes to, and also we're going to change the event. So throw away when flag is clicked and add another when space key is pressed and change it in the drop down menu. We'll use the left arrow key. You can choose any arrow to indicate that the ball is going off the goalpost there. So again, the XY coordinates that we need to use, I'm just going to jump into the point here, the PowerPoint. It's 228 and 169. So go ahead and make that change in your XY coordinates. 228, 169, and that's where the ball is going to glide to, let's say in 1.5 seconds off the screen once the left arrow key is pressed. Now we're also going to change that in Jordan, so we're going to do the same kick using the left arrow. So this is called synchronous programming, where you're synchronizing the code for the ball and Jordan at the same time, but using different events. So let's copy this code over, and all we need to do for here is switch the when flag is clicked to when space key is pressed, and nothing else changes for Jordan's code because her movement leg does not change there. So I'm going to just make that change, and then we can test out our code really simply by clicking on, you can click on the flag that hasn't changed, but you can click on the left, or the left key is pressed, and hopefully you get to see the ball being kicked outside of the goal into the crowd there, or outside of the field. So these are the two main sections of code that we've just built right now, and it's really important to note and keep adding to this code, and we're going to see the independent practice in just a second, and part of what you're going to be doing outside of today's training series, and we're going to see what more you can add. So a lot of times, maybe students can come up to you and say, "Can I make the ball turn?" Well, absolutely. As soon as you kick the ball, you can get the ball to turn and get it to go into the net and then stop once it gets inside the net. So you can definitely add more ideas from your learners as they come along. Question here from Oliver: wouldn't it be easier to change the flag to spacebar? Yes, you can. You can do spacebar to go inside the net, and left key to go outside of the goal. So definitely use different events as you see fit in your program. So I'm just going to go into the independent practice just to show you what else you need to be doing in your program to be adding to this program. So I'm just going to get to that slide in just a second. All right, so and we've duplicated our code. We've changed it with the left arrow, and now it's your turn to try, and now it's your learner's turn to try. So there's two other ways that, or two more things that you can add to your code. First, we got the ball to be kicked a little bit higher into the net. The other thing that you can do is get it to kick somewhere else. So you can choose another go to or glide XY coordinate and move it maybe a little bit lower near the net there. And then the second thing that you can add is kind of hitting off the goalpost. And I'm actually going to show you that program in just a second, but I want to give you the chance to think about what is happening here. Obviously, you have the gliding towards the goalpost, and then that rebounding effect where it kind of turns and moves into a different direction. So these are some images that can help you with this, to help you think about where the ball is going to go. And what's really neat is in the lesson plan, it does provide you with a visual of some of the coordinates that you can use in your program. And so I'm just going to scroll down to find that here. And it will help you in building your code for the last two parts there. So I believe it's right here. Let me just get to it. I know this lesson plan is a little bit longer than we're used to, but it has a lot to do there. And oh wow, so Daryl's got the ball to hit the net and then drop to the ground. That's very realistic. So that's another extension that you can share with your learners. And here is the image that you can share with your learners if you would like to. But you can see that there's the kick away, so it goes off outside of the net. You have the goal, which is another XY coordinate. Here is the goalpost, and then here is the rebound that you can show to your learners and help them figure out exactly where the coordinates are to get their ball moving in a particular area. All right, so going into the actual independent practice, to give you some time to do that and hopefully post it in the Makeblock global community. So what you should be doing and what your students should be doing in the classroom is adding a couple more sections to their code. So getting the ball is kicked into the goal by pressing the space key. So you have to keep in mind, if you use the space key earlier, you may need to use another key. And then the ball hits the post by pressing the right arrow. So that is something. Those are the two parts of the program that you're going to add. And then in extensions, you can program the ball to rebound once it hits the goalpost. You can also get the program Panda to ask Jordan to show him how to kick the ball, and also get Jordan to kick the soccer ball to Panda. And I'll show you in an example in the example programs when I'm done here. Before we get into review, I want to answer a question. You can definitely use random position to get your ball to go into a random position. So you can definitely use that instead of an XY coordinate, and get your students or your learners to use and see where the random positions are going. So that's definitely an option there. But right now I'm going to save my file because I can add that to the global community there. So don't forget to add a title to it. I'm going to call this lesson 6 penalty kick. Okay, and I'm going to save it to my computer. I'm going to really save it on my desktop there, or in the folder that you have your different files. And I'm going to open up the example program where it shows that how it hits the goalpost. So just give me a second as I save that. I know it's a little bit slower on my end today, but it will take a second. And if you want to go ahead and open that as well, you will see, let's save that in lesson 6. You will see that run for you as the example program is running there. So I'm going to do file, open. So I'm going to open or import from my computer because that's where the file is. It's not on the cloud. So I'm not going to click on open. I'm going to click on import from your computer. So that's the difference between saving and opening again on mBlock 5. And I'm going to select the file that's saved on my computer there. I don't want to make any changes, so I'm going to click on don't save. In example programs, it's called GoPost, and there's also the extension ones that are really cool. I'm actually going to open the extension to show you all the different types of code that are there for you, and you can also have that in your back pocket as you are going through this lesson with your learners. It's going to take a second to load, but you'll see the different types of programs here. You have 3 or 4 different codes in each sprite. Now you have a code for Panda, for example, where it shows that he's going to bring the ball back to Jordan and maybe save the ball from going into the goal. So you can play this program by clicking on the flag, clicking on the space bar, the left arrow, and the right arrow. These are all user inputs that we're using in this program, and really see what's happening and really see the extensions in that final program at the end of the day. So it's for me, it's taking a little bit longer, but hopefully it's working on your end. So I'm just clicking on the flag, but you can also do the left and right and see the ball move, and you'll also see Panda move to bring the ball over to Jordan. Now, just for the sake of time, I'm going to jump back into the review to end off today's session as normal. And I'm going to ask a couple of 3 questions, and feel free to type it in the chat, type your answer in the chat, and we'll go through these questions together. So question number 1, it says, which of the following blocks can display the hidden sprite? Is it A, B, C, or D? So I hope that that is really easy for you. Yes, number 1 is C, which is the show block. The show block shows the hidden sprite. The B is setting a size to 100. That doesn't indicate anything. Change size by 10 also doesn't indicate anything. Going to the front layer doesn't show the block or show the sprite. It just brings it back or brings it to a front layer there. Question 2, when running the code below, what will the sprite's path of movement be? So the code says glide 1 second, x 200, y 0, glide 0.5 seconds, x 50, y 0, glide 10, x is 200, y 0, and then glide 1 second, 50, 0. So what is happening here with the movement of the sprite, of this particular sprite? Is it A, is it going in a square? B, in a rectangle? C, is it moving right in a straight line? Or D, moving back and forth in a straight line? So you might take a second to kind of bring or refresh your memory of the XY coordinates. And I am seeing the right answer in the chat. The answer is D. Excellent. You'll see that it's going from the 200 on the far right, back to 50, 200, and back to 50 on the x-axis. So it's really important to read the code. It's always going to be on the x-axis. It doesn't move in a rectangle, it doesn't move in a square, and it doesn't move right in a straight line. It goes back and forth. Okay, so excellent job there. And finally, question 3. When running the code, the sprite will glide 4 times. What is the slowest instruction? What is the slowest instruction for getting the sprite to glide? Is it A, B, C, or D? So take a second and answer that, and we'll go through why that answer is correct. So you're right, it is C. Gliding 10 seconds it gives the sprite the opportunity for 10 seconds to elapse before it gets to that new section or that new XY coordinates on the screen. So the larger number of seconds means the slowest time in order for it to get there. So that is it for the review, and that is it for lesson 6. I look forward to seeing you in lesson 7, where we'll help Panda prepare a slideshow of all the exciting places visited on his trip to Earth, and it's called A Parrot's Travel. Panda's Travel. And this includes learning how to use conditional statements. So we're going to use if-then statements next week, as well as rotation and functionality of a program. And before I let you go, or before I pass it on to Rami, just a reminder to complete the independent practice on your own and post it in the mBlock community. And that's where you're going to get Panda to kick a ball and add 2 more parts of that code where the ball is clicked into the goal by pressing a space key, and the ball is hitting the post, and then as many extensions as you can do, or it's really up to your creativity to add those different extensions as they come along. Don't forget to share it to the community on planet.mblock.cc, and also if you don't have an account, please create an account and share it in the curated studio. So I hope you enjoyed the session, and I'll pass it back on to Rami for any Q&A with us here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mina, and thanks for continuing to lead us in the learning here today. So yeah, I'll open the floor to any questions. As always, feel free to put your question in the chat or in just using your raise hand function or feature to ask a question that you may have. And while you're thinking up of your questions, or until we get any questions, I wanted to use this time to also get any feedback from you on what you'd like to see, if anything different in the next 2 weeks or the last 2 sessions. We want to make sure this is as beneficial, and we know how valuable your time is, so we want to make sure to collect that. So if you have any thoughts on what you'd like to learn, of course, you could see the content for the next 2 weeks already on the website. So curriculum for 7 and 8 are already available on the website. But if you want us to cover anything else or review anything else around whether it's Google Classroom integration, whether it's on hardware integration with mBlock 5, what is it that you want to see, if anything, different? Or continue doing what Mina is doing to cover this curriculum, which hopefully then you'll have to use with your students in the weeks and months and hopefully years to come.
Hi, Remy. May I ask you one question?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So if I move the sprite on the stage, I can find the X and Y coordinates. Yeah, should underneath the stage. Yeah, but is it possible that I just move my cursor on the the stage? Is it possible to show the X and Y coordinates on the real time, something like that?
If I understand correctly, you're wondering if there's a way to show the live XY position as you move your cursor?
Yes, the live one, yeah.
That's correct. Let me think about it. There is definitely a way to do that because you can have either you can have an actual Cartesian grid on the map, but I wonder if you could follow the coordinate system. I'll have to confirm with that, but I'm not sure, Mina, if you know a quick way to do it to demonstrate.
Yeah, the only one I know is if you click and drag the sprite and it shows in real time, but I'd have to also check whether you can show the cursor as well.
Yeah, something like the AutoCAD the layout. If you move the cursor, you can definitely see the real time the x and y coordinates. So I'm wondering if it is possible for the unblock.
Yeah, again, I think in Scratch in general, I know you can grab each sprite and show the live coordinate of that individual sprite. So we'll have to double check that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll double check and get back with you there.
Okay, sure. I'm with you. Thank you.
Great. Well, if there's no other questions, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And we'll look forward to connecting with you again in the next week as we go through lesson 7. Have a great week.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.